Welcome to the SRS Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron J. Babyar, and I'm the Director of Support Raising Solutions. Whether you are a new ministry worker or a veteran looking to increase your competence and confidence, Support Raising Solutions seeks to bless you in your quest to be a spiritually healthy, vision-driven, and fully funded Great Commission worker. Our guest today is Jeremy Henderson of Go Donations. You may have heard him on one of our different podcasts, but I invited Jeremy back today just because I really wanted to discuss end of year when it comes to support raising. So, Jeremy, welcome, my friend.
Hey, thank you so much, Aaron. It is a pleasure to be here. And it's a great time of year to start thinking about this whole subject because what is it? What, 31% or 40% of giving?
Yeah, there are estimates all over the board. You're right. Yeah, it's high. We know that a high amount of giving happens over the next few months, right?
Absolutely.
Well, as you have been thinking about this topic a little bit, and you and I haven't really pre-rehearsed all of this very much, but we know that this is an issue because we both have worked with and given supervisory status, if you will, to a lot of people raising support. This is kind of hard for people to think about, particularly in early October, which is the time when we plan to send out this podcast. Why do you think that's such an issue for people to think about the end of the year a good 2 or 3 months before the end of the year?
Yeah, that's a great question. If anyone else is like me, our lives are already slammed with busyness. We are so on, everything with our kids and taking them here and there, or we're, going on mission out of the country. I'll be in Thailand and Tanzania over the next month. And, our lives are busy. Our lives, they're already full. Mm-hmm. And so we tend to let what I like to call the tyranny of the urgent take over. Mm-hmm. It's like whatever is right there, right in front of me, that's what I'm going to focus on. And a lot of times we don't think ahead, even on the next 3 months. Okay, what is really going to move the needle in my own partnership development? Sometimes we have to sit back and kind of get out of the urgent and start thinking about, okay, what can I do today that's going to really move the needle forward? And that's this kind of discussion today.
Yeah. And part of the problem with that is that today we want to handle the today, but for a lot of people we're thinking about maybe costumes for our kids if we live in a place that has trick-or-treating, or we're thinking about Thanksgiving, and is it at grandma's house this year, or are we hosting? And yet we really need to preempt all of that by first building a plan, right? Right.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I just sent to our this group of people that I'm coaching personally this quote. It says, the will to win means nothing without the will to prepare. And that was from a marathon runner back in 1989. And, here's the truth is that a lot of times we just simply don't think through planning appropriately, and I like to say proper planning prevents poor performance. That's something that I say all the time to our team, just because we do a lot of planning together as a team. And so if we'll just take some time and really think through this stuff right now is a perfect time to do it, especially if we're going to have a really robust end of your strategy.
Yeah. By the way, I need to tell myself a little bit. I used to get this one so wrong. I would wait until after Thanksgiving, usually the day after Thanksgiving, and maybe 2 days if there was that Black Friday sale I just had to get to. But I would wait until then and start putting together some sort of Hail Mary Kumbaya newsletter thing. And then I went, oh man, I got to print that thing. Oh man, I got to get stamps. Oh man, I got to get my addresses together. Oh, who gave last year? I need to make sure I get that to them again. Oh, do I need to send something? So I used to be so behind the ball that early on as a support raiser, I don't think I would send at least anything that had any good strategy to it. I didn't even try that. And when I did send something, it usually wasn't very good. And it wasn't usually until mid-December. And by then, I didn't even realize a lot of people who are going to give end-of-year gifts, well, they've already made their decision, haven't they?
Yeah, right, exactly. They're those that do give those year-end gifts are, kind of thinking about it. They know the end of the year is coming up. They look at their Christmas gift list and, their financial portfolio at that time, and they're already thinking ahead about it. And then when we try to just play catch up, sometimes we miss the ball.
Yes. And so one of the reasons that you and I are putting this out there to be published by SRS here in early October is because we don't want people to wait until after Halloween or Thanksgiving or whatever else to put together their plan. In fact, we want them already in their plan, accomplishing different tasks that they might have put together by the time they get to November, not just starting to think of a plan, because it takes time, doesn't it? And also it can change every year, can't it?
It can. I mean, it really, there are some variables that happen. What's happening in our culture, toward the end of the year, what's happening in our families. And so, we've got to kind of provide some margin for those kinds of changes and kind of, I guess ride the wave, if you will. But we've got to start paddling to prepare for that wave to come, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start getting into a little bit of the nitty gritty. When it's October, and of course, you and I both get the opportunity to speak with people and even oversee people who are raising support. What do you tell them, though? Like, what do you tell people they need to be doing? Give some real tangible, specific things that people need to be organizing in their end of year planning for their requests or invitation towards special giving.
Okay, well, I appreciate you asking that question. And actually, Micah May, who's also our boot camp facilitator, publicly with SRS, has put out just a tremendous article about this. And he's got some great pointers that they do for the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And we do something that's pretty similar to that. First of all, November 1st, name storming donors and contacts that you plan to appeal face to face. And so kind of the idea behind that is this, and this is something to think about for all of us, even right now, is how can we get personal? How can we, get beyond all of the mail that everyone gets toward the end of the year by all of these charitable organizations and other things, trying to really think through their, year-end giving appeals. And so how do we get past that? We have to get personal. I just talked to one of what I consider to be a veteran, support raiser yesterday, and they talked about, we're going to send out this mass appeal to all of our donors. And, I'm like, hold the phone for a quick second. That's a great idea. But remember, when it's everybody's problem, it's nobody's problem.
Right.
And so, I told them, I said, I recommend you get personal. I recommend you put, a tailored message to that individual first. So this first, November 1st date that Mike has put down, I think is great. By November 1st, be name-storming people, prayerfully name-storming people that you want to reach out to personally and make that personal appeal. And that's what's going to really separate that from the rest of all those, really nice brochures that they get mail about that, right?
Yeah. You're not far off on that when you say a lot, because people can get a lot at the end of year brochures, but people don't necessarily get a lot of personal conversations that catches people up on where you're at and what the needs are, even if they're already a regular giver to your team.
Right, absolutely. And the second, about a week later, Micah says, make a post on your social media channels about your year-end giving. And so, there's this thing that I really didn't even know about until, I don't know, it was a couple of years ago. It's called Giving Tuesday. Have you heard of Giving Tuesday? Yes. And there's various ways of doing that, I've noticed. And sometimes I think it seems like it could be really strategic. And there's other times when I think I've wanted missionaries to stay away from it. It just kind of depends on each person and their individual context. But used right in certain situations, it could be strategic. It could be. Absolutely. I think that by and large, and I deal with this on an organizational or corporate level because, we definitely do take the opportunity to, receive gifts for Giving Tuesday through our social media channels. And it is a very, viable way to, put the opportunity out there to give. And certainly, people are already in the mode of giving at that point because Giving Tuesday has really become a very national social media giving kind of day. And so, there's a lot of great information on givingtuesday.com about that actually. So, that is something that you might want to leverage. But again, you don't want to make the mistake of thinking, oh, I'm going to raise all of what I'm expecting for the end of the year, or I'm going to raise all my budget through social media, because obviously we know that does not work.
No. In fact, when I have tracked my own giving that people have done towards the campaigns that I might have put together, and I've really noticed a few things over the years. And one is that Giving Tuesday, at least for me in my context, despite a few different ways of approaching it, has never even approached. I mean, not even close has it touched the amount of response that I've received when compared to when I've sat somebody down and said, hey, there is this special need and you're special to me, and I appreciate your prayer and your partnership and your regular giving to this ministry, but here's a special project at the end of the year, and it's going to cost $10,000. And if you'd like to give a chunk special at the end of the year, I would certainly want to let you know that's something that's really on our hearts and minds right now. When I've had that sort of conversation with a handful of people, that has far exceeded anything I've ever done via social media, and particularly Giving Tuesday. So that's why, from my context, I'm like, well, Giving Tuesday, okay. And yet I've heard from others. In fact, I have a good friend who did a Giving Tuesday kind of post. And I kid you not, somebody gave him $10,000 because of that post.
Wow.
Now, it was already somebody that knew him. He had a relationship with them. So, so I hopefully I'm balancing my reticence perhaps a little bit with a little bit of, but you don't know what Jesus is going to do. So that doesn't mean give up on the idea entirely, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, there are some that really do advocate kind of a multifaceted approach to your year-end strategy. Which could include social media. Let me just say this, Aaron, and you may agree or disagree with this, but I would say that at any time of the year, if you're going to utilize social media as part of a giving strategy, the end of the year might be a time to do that because of the nature of doing a year-end campaign. And people kind of are in the mode of giving. They're kind of expecting that. And so, that's what I've found. But again, it's only a small portion, except for that individual that you just mentioned. Man, that's an awesome. I give a high five to that guy.
Sure. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
It's important now and then that we mention that we have a resource available to those who help train and coach others that are raising support. The SRS network really isn't for everyone, but it is for those who are seeking to shape direction, build infrastructure, elevate training, and multiply coaching in their ministry culture. We can provide individual or organizational access to other support-raising resources in order to help you help others who are within your ministry. Learn more at supportraisingsolutions.org/network.
Let me say this too with the Giving Tuesday thing. If you're going to do it well. Have your artwork, ready. Don't just, scribble out Giving Tuesday and take a picture with bad light with your iPhone. But, actually have an idea. If you're going to post that, have a link, right? Like have a link that you've tested, that that works, that if you want to remove any sort of speed bumps towards potential immediate giving. If somebody goes, oh, you know what? Yeah, it's Giving Tuesday. I've been meaning to give somewhere. I have a couple $100. And oh, hey, look. Jeremy Henderson, man, he's doing great work with Go to Nations. I'm going to send $200 his way. And they go and they click on Jeremy's link and it says invalid, or HTML 404 or whatever. Yeah, they're done. They're very unlikely to go searching to try and find you. So you do need to have a plan that goes beyond, I hope people give me money on Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so just so that the audience will know, Giving Tuesday happens on the Tuesday following Thanksgiving every year.
Good point.
So again,
Good point.
It's a great, it might be a great tool to put into a strategy of a multifaceted approach, but again, it doesn't replace that getting personal. So,
and I'm not so sure about if that's a very international thing or not. Is that pretty much just an American church kind of response thing? I know a lot of Americans will give to charities that have nothing to do with Jesus on Giving Tuesday also. So let's be clear. This is not, Giving Tuesday is not just something people go give towards missionaries. But Jeremy, in your, your viewpoint, have you seen or do you know of any sort of international context to this?
I don't. That's a great question. I have not seen that in the international community, but definitely it's an American thing, I guess, at this point. So,
okay. So if you're overseas and listening to this, I would just say if you're putting together some sort of idea for Giving Tuesday, be cognizant, as you probably already are, of time zones and timing, and realize that most of the people that might potentially respond to a Giving Tuesday post, they're going to be from the U.S. Now, we're not saying others can't. We just it seems as if that's probably a trend, at least at the time of recording. By the time people hear this, that might be this international global phenomenon. And Jeremy, you and I might sound silly, but who knows? Who knows? Let's move on, though, because there's a lot more to end of year, a plan than Giving Tuesday.
Yeah, absolutely. There sure is. So, I think that November is a very strategic time to send out a print newsletter.
Mm-hmm.
I do far more, e-publications than I do print newsletters, just simply because of the cost, and printing. I always make them, full bleed. I get them done in a professional printer, because that's important to me.
Yes.
But it is a very important time for that. One of the things that I just want to mention in that is, again, if you do a newsletter, don't make that newsletter your ask. Don't just creatively put your ask for the end of the year necessarily into that newsletter. It might be, I've heard Jen Fortner and some others. Jen Fortner is she is the support raising guru, so to speak, for the Assemblies of God. She recommends putting some other letter, possibly along with your newsletter, to certain strategic partners in that. And that would serve as kind of like a pre-call letter, back to those, beginning the fundraising days.
Right.
I want to put out a letter possibly to the people that I know that I'm going to call and follow with them, letting them know that I'm going to follow with them.
Right.
That was actually the subject of my talk with that veteran missionary. He said that they're going to put it, they're going to do a campaign that's going to basically be the ask, and they're hoping that they're going to get a lot of response for that. And my thought about that is, again, unless you follow up with those individuals very personally, you just want to get personal. That's why I love.
There's no shortcut to personal, is there?
There's not. You've got to get personal. So, past that, it is a good time of year to still meet with people. I've heard it said, well, gosh, people are so busy with Christmas parties. I don't know. I must go to 8 Christmas parties a year. I don't know. We get a lot of Christmas.
You are popular.
So it's just a big time for parties,
Yeah.
But the truth is that people still, there's still opportunity to make it personal and to get those face-to-face appointments.
Yeah.
And just like you said, it's a time to mail, Christmas cards. I don't know if you guys do Christmas cards. What we do personally for our end of the year strategy and our family is that we use I email like a nice, specialized, customized thank you card around Thanksgiving. Just to let them know that we are so thankful for our partners. And usually in that, I will include a small gift to my donors. For instance, the past couple of years, I've put kind of a foldable Christmas ornament, that just says you're the star of our team or something like that. We really
cheese factor high, but that's still awesome. Good job, man.
I know.
Yeah, actually, especially people that are coming from foreign mission field places, I know that those that are really thinking ahead will often find something very affordable that they can buy, 50 or 60 or 100 of. And when they're really thinking ahead, they'll bring those back to the States in advance, and then somebody will snail mail those for them about that same time. And so everybody gets a little tree or a trinket or something that has some significance. It doesn't have to be just a trinket. Sometimes it's like a pair of socks or something that was, hand knit by somebody that they helped escape trafficking, and it's a job. I mean, you really can tie in that gift to your ministry and your vision. But I do like the idea, Jaron, what you're saying is every year your family says thank you and sends something tangible, not because you owe people a trinket or a widget, but because you want to say thank you with something that they might see and hold on to until later on. Right.
And I just to be clear is that thank you is not followed up with a year-end ask. That would be a separate thing.
Okay, so just to be clear there, so you would do an end of year ask, but it's not a part of the same mailer. It's not at the same time. It's not a, hey, thank you, and here you need to give more. It's just a thank you.
That's right.
Great.
That's right.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, that's important for us. And, to go to your, issue about putting something in there that has significance, and we are planning on actually doing that this year with our own ministry. It's something that will kind of tie them. We have a side ministry that deals with people that are getting, free from trafficking, and something that's made by these individuals is like a way to like touch that situation in a very tangible way. And I really, really feel strongly about that. I went to Ukraine recently, and I sent magnets back and that kind of mailer. So those little things, especially if it's actually from another country, that there's something that's really there's something really unique about that.
Right. By the way, it's time for us, you mentioned that, it's time for us to do another family magnet. So as I'm thinking ahead, part of my plan this year, Jeremy, is we're going to do some more family pictures here in October. And it's just time. The old picture from a couple of years ago is before my son got married. So the daughter-in-laws walked by the picture on the fridge of our own family a couple times and looked at it and looked at me. And I've been like, yes, we're going to be doing a new photo. Yes, it's just time. It's been a few years. And we're going to send a thank you. We'll send a little gift also, but that is just a real natural time also to throw in. If you do a family card or magnet or something like that, you can throw that in as well. So let's change modes now, as with the time that we have remaining. Jeremy, tell me a little bit more about how do you do that ask, so to speak. And so both from what gets in the mailer or the email or whatever, but also the face-to-face, how do you frame that up? Because I want to be clear here. We are talking about end-of-year special gift requests. We're not talking about end of year, hey, will you join my monthly team? Those are really kind of different conversations. And so we're really going after a project or an idea or something special we need funding with. By the way, I've identified something that I'm wanting to work on here at the end of my year. It's going to cost about $13,000. I don't know if I'll get that. I'd love to get more than that. Who knows? But that is going to be, thematically, there's a project I have coming up that I'm going to approach my supporters and request an end of year gift that goes towards that $13,000 need. So Jeremy, I kind of probably even spoke a little bit too much there, but tell me a little bit, how do you approach that sort of situation in your own life and ministry as you engage with potential givers here at the end of the year?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, kind of even before I'm sending a Christmas, we always also do a Christmas, mailer, like just a picture with our family, a small Christmas card, something like that. But even really before that, this year I'm planning on sending out, I am personally planning on sending out personalized letters for a specific ask for me. Okay, you just mentioned a project that you guys are thinking about doing that's going to cost about $13,000. What I'm thinking about is approaching those that I consider to be major donors that I truly believe, prayerfully, that they would give toward this kind of a project. So I'm totally on board with you. See, that I think that's the different philosophy that a lot of people do about year-end giving. I really do. I think that typically it's more of a shotgun approach. It's more of the mass communication approach where, okay, I'm just going to be one of the many mailers in my mailbox, and that probably will get ignored. And so, for us, back to, I mentioned Jen Fortner's idea of putting in the newsletter, but putting a separate, specialized, tailored, customized letter for that individual, addressed to them, written to them. I always will take like the first paragraph or so, and I'll change that to like make sure that person knows that I am writing to them. I'm not just like doing a mail merge where I'm putting their name on it from Word. I'm actually taking the time because I want them to know this is straight for them. So I'll mention like their kids' names or something that we, something that they know and we know, that they know, okay, this is a really personalized ask. Right. So I'm planning on doing that in the form of a letter, but following up with those individuals personally. So again, it's not that I'm letting the letter do the ask for me, but I do want to, that way I can kind of make it clear what I'm looking for. So, and there's an expectation of follow up because I've already sent that their way.
Right. Okay. Here's, as we're wrapping up here at the end, I will say you and I have some probably very similar approaches. I can't sit down with 40 people at the end of the year and do 40 special asks. I mean, I'll send out that that end of year letter to everybody, whether it's digital or paper or both. But I am always intentional about trying to sit down with, sometimes it's 5, sometimes it's 10 people that God has laid on my heart that I want to specifically just say, hey, I'm honored that you're partnering in this with me. Here's this significant need. I'm not asking you to stop your normal giving, but here at the end of the year, I'm going to invite you to do something special towards this need. And I always accompany that with the story of a changed life. And I make it really clear that I might be the hands and the feet of the ministry that they're supporting, but we are only doing that ministry together. And I found that whether people can give or not, they're thankful for that personal touch and they're thankful for that interaction. And in some cases, it has worked out very well, where people have giving very significant gifts at the end of the year that I don't think they would have had there just been a newsletter. So, Jeremy, any closing thoughts from you before we wrap up our time today?
Yes, and that is, I would just advocate not to forget about December 26th to December 31st, because that window, after Christmas is done, that window is a time where people are kind of getting, they're enjoying their families and, kind of that post-Christmas bliss, I guess you could call it. But it's also a time, if they're going to make a gift, that's going to count for that year toward their taxes, they just know that that's the time to do it. And so, again, I would just recommend in looking at the timeline, starting right now, start name storming now. Don't forget Giving Tuesday, if that's going to be part of your multifaceted approach. Don't forget to send out, make sure that you give a thank you or a newsletter or something in November. Follow it up by some personal touches in December. And then don't forget that very, that last minute window can be very strategic in your strategy.
Right. Very good. Very good. Sometimes you don't want to go over the top and have 17 reminders going out, but sometimes you can just send out a brief little reminder of some sort to certain people. And again, we want you to bathe everything in prayer. We don't want you to over communicate, and it's just learning to do this is something that is just that. It's learning to do it. It doesn't come easy for everybody, and yet it also seems very wise to be aware of how people give. And as we know, most people will do the bulk of their giving towards the end of the calendar year. At least in the United States, that's how it works. And so don't abandon all other ministry responsibilities you have and everything else, but think differently, have a strategy as you move towards the end of the year. And by all means, if you're listening to this in October, we would say now is the time to nail down what is your plan going to be. Maybe run it by a couple of other people to get their feedback, maybe some veteran missionaries. But that way you can really start moving forward towards the end of October and early November towards printing or packing or whatever it is that you need to do. So, Jeremy, my friend, as always, it's a pleasure to spend time with you. Thank you so much for being our guest today on the SRS podcast.
Thanks, Aaron. It was a pleasure to be here.
Thanks for joining us for this episode. We would love to hear your ideas for future content. Please visit supportraisingsolutions.org/feedback to share your thoughts and questions. Also, wherever you download your podcast from, be sure to subscribe for future episodes and come back each week to gain more insight into the process of building and maintaining your personal support team.